how to set up some hierarchies and what is hierarchies and also some of the important things about why we need to build up hierarchies and things like that. Okay. So once again, a very warm welcome. Okay. So saya harap semua boleh faham English ya. Semua be talking in English. Okay. So itu what asset hierarchy lah basically is how to organize your data lah into groupings so that it will be easier for you to manage. Yeah. So just like our files, our books. Just imagine you have a library, and you need to organize them properly. Yeah. So how do we go about that? So there are some definition. What is asset hierarchies? So kalau you want to remember, then you only click the picture lah. So I hope everybody is sort of see the thing big. Boleh tengok big. So can see big. Yeah. So an asset hierarchy is a logical index. So uh, it's a logical index because when later on a lot of the data we want to use it for, we use it in the context of data management. So we're using software, using database, using Excel sheet. So it will make easy for you to share it to equipment. Yeah. So because you are in tax and all that, you group them just like in organization, you group your people into department, yeah, into age group, and you have all the information. So it's actually grouping of equipment to make it easier to access. So building an understanding of your facility asset hierarchy is very important for efficient tracking, scheduling, and also later on when we go into problems solving, like trying to find root cause, then it will be actually very useful. Yeah. So it just basically is a way to organize the machine. So what I do is I'm going to give you some example. I will give you some example how it's going to be done. There are different structures and all that, and also depend on the organization that you are in. Yeah, not everybody will do it the same way. So there's no what they call hard and fast rule. But depending on the organization, the type of equipment that you have, then maybe then maybe that you have to have different format. Okay. Again, this is another question. The why do you need? Because it allow company to organize the equipment, machine. Sometimes the machine can be across location. In other words, if you are managing building, then you have many building, but you have same type of equipment. So then how do you manage them? So it's very critical or important to understand how to group them. So group them so that uh, it also established what you call a mother-child relationship for information tracking, for database managing, and so on and so forth. So now I will give you an example. Let's say, for example, you got a plant there. No, you just imagine you got a factory. A plant is actually a factory or a building. And then you get many location. In a factory, this location could be it could be a process. Yeah. So sometimes you have different process and all that. Then you have uh, each different process. Then you have different system. So system is actually equipment system. Like for example, you have a mechanical system, you have electrical system, you have firefighting system. No. So or pump is a form of system. Air conditioning is a sort also a system. So how do you group them? How do you categorize them? Wait, let's see. Okay, let's say for example this plant, you actually have different. You have a plant, you have factory, and then you have different process. You have a process where you have this a lot of vessels, a lot of batch reactor is some sort of a heater and filtration, dryer, so you have different process. I mean there's line one, line one. Under this process, you may actually have what you call equipment. You have equipment. So this is actually the equipment level. So under the batch reactor, then you have material containment means is a holding tank. Agitation assembly basically is a mixer or stirrer, and then you have temperature controller, chemical controller, and all that. And of course, if you take the agitator assembly, which is a mixer, you have motors, you have drive, you have gearbox. Now those are components. But for us, we are managing equipment. So basically, we actually are interested in managing this area. Yeah. Uh, Sorry. So we are interested in managing the material containment, agitation, assembly. So E2 level is actually what you call an equipment level. Let's say, for example, you under a plant system like that. You got a system like that. Yeah, so you got a process. Then in the process, you have a pump. You have a pump. So is it this pump is actually equipment? So we are managing equipment. So for equipment hierarchy, we would rather look at the equipment rather than the parts. The motors, because a lot of equipment got motors, a lot of equipment got parts. So those parts are what they call spare part management. We are not doing that now. So we are talking about equipment management. So for asset hierarchy, we take the pump, which consists of the motor with the pump head as one unit. Okay, and that is our uh, definition. So this is our definition for equipment. So I'm going to give you a few examples. So you know that asset hierarchy is actually how to come up with a hierarchy for your plants and so on and so forth. Like for example, this one I just give you. I have quite a few examples here. So we will take a bit of time. We do not need to hurry. Yeah. So let's say enterprise means actually your business or your business. Then you have site. So some business got the field factory, but if you're only managing one site, then you can actually forget about all those things. Important thing is your area. So in the area, which is actually your local plant, then you have production line one, production line two, process one, then you have storage. So under this, what you call the department or location area, then you have your work unit, which could be your a smaller sort of grouping, and then you go into lower level, then whereby you have your equipment. Let's say you take another example. Okay, so basically equipment hierarchy works like this. You have one main equipment, one main equipment. Then you have the sub equipment. So you have sub equipment. So you have level one. So your level one, level zero could be actually your section and all that. Also could be your section. Again, depending on the type of equipment or the plant that you operate. Because some equipment are very big. Some plants are very big. Yeah. And then of course you take a crane. Then again, a crane consists of the driver, which is the truck, where you got the engine and all that. Then you got the trailer, which is the belakang. The belakang is where your crane system and hydraulic system. So even even a crane, the crane that you actually see in the outside, they already have this breakdown, the truck, trailers, and then the crane systems, and the crane systems, which is the physical part, is operated by the hydraulic system. So it's a matter of how deep you want to go in. The deeper you go in, then your this asset ID eventually will be very long. So you can see that asset hierarchies. One of the benefit or one of the use of this hierarchy is to help us to build a equipment ID later on, which I will again move into that. Yeah. So you take a very simple look at facilities. So if you are into facility management, your building management, for example. So that is a road company. What is a company? Your site. So normally, if you manage one building, so actually we actually start with the building level, unless you are managing many building. Then this building, then you check out. Okay, what sort of for example, what sort of, okay, this building, what sort of level of floor do you have? Yeah. Uh, if it's a hotel, then you got many floors. But if you just a very simple building, it may have just two floors, and then you may have many rooms. And then you have equipment. Now under your equipment, then again, this equipment, you may actually have what they call different grouping of equipment. Like I show you earlier on. Then you have fighting equipment, firefighting equipment. You have air conditioning equipment. You have lift and all that. So those again, you need to classify them and then group them into hierarchy. My eh, m- Zoo, my screen seems to hang up. Uh, Hang up. What do you see over there? Okay. Okay. You can still see the structure. Okay. Wait, okay. So then you have you have facilities. Facilities, we thinking of facilities. But for example, if you're working in a factory, the factory is something different. Then factory have production line. So under production line, you have production line one, production line two. Sometimes you have many different of product. So you got product one, product two. Then you other equipment. So then you group your equipment. So this is actually what you call the uh, equipment hierarchy. So this is the factory scenario. Yeah. And if you're talking about healthcare, healthcare then basically is a healthcare basically is a hospital. Hospital. Again, in the hospital, we got a lot of equipment. We got aircon, then we have gas, we have electrical system, we are fighting fire. In fact, most building will have quite similar sort of equipment. Then you have different department. Then again, of course, this one is depend on the type of facility you have. Then you sort of design your hierarchy accordingly. Accordingly, you know. Yeah. Now, why do we need to do that? You see, if you got a if you understand what you call parent-child relationship, so we have a one asset or one location, then under this one you have a lot of sub. So basically, all these are the child, and the child belong to the parent. So we can actually roll up. So you can see the same thing in your file directory. You have a what you call a tree structure. You click, then the thing drop down. You click, then it sort of roll up. So you can actually drop down or roll up. And the whole idea is they are actually related. They're actually what you call parent-child relationship. Uh, and also useful for us to navigate. Navigate means to move about. To move about, searching for equipment, not searching for parts, equipment, and all that. So it's actually to help us to navigate, to move about, to search for things, basically to search for things. And to do that effectively, of course, it also brings us back to the what we call the asset naming convention. So asset naming convention is actually developing an ID for the equipment. So you have a pump. What ID do we call it? Uh, so again, all this can be actually built up from our hierarchy. So without the hierarchy, without the equipment hierarchy, your naming convention will be uh, you cannot relate back. So you cannot relate back. You cannot search. Okay. So the benefit of all this is actually to help us to track equipment. So understand, equipment hierarchy is help us to track equipment and also help us to build the naming convention later on to come up with the ID and macam ini. And to help us to do equipment scheduling, help us to find root cause failure and breakdown and all that. So it help us to do tracking. Now when it comes to equipment naming convention, just a few rules. The few rules. We don't want to connect it with the account number. Account number is actually where the accountants keep all the numbering system. Neither do we want to connect it with the spare part. So it's not spare part. It's not your asset as in the account number. So also you do not mix with the number with drawing number. Kalau we got a plant, they got a plant drawing, they got a lot of this PI number and all that. So that one also different. Kalau you under many equipment or many plant, again try not to over coordinate. So try to keep it simple. And if possible, you mark the equipment onto the site. You mark the equipment onto the site. Yeah. Again, naming convention. Is it that to do our naming convention, first we need to do our equipment hierarchy first. So it's a level 1, level 2, level 3. Yeah. Then you it's easy for us to do the naming. Like for example, you see okay, in this one you see our this equipment tag. Equipment tag means equipment number. We got 05 ACUU 04 FA. So the first 05 basically means block 5 because our hierarchy is on block 1, block 2, block 5. Under block 5, then we have ACON. So ACUN is ACON. 04 is actually the serial number. FA is the process again. What which process and all that. Again, this one is another example. M1 MILL is meal. So M1 basically is the what they call the process or the section, and then you have the equipment grouping, and then you have your equipment. Meal is the equipment. Then you other into number 11 means I got actually at least 11 of this machine, and it's actually in the 2 room. That is the process. That is the process. So basically, your asset hierarchy is help us to develop the naming convention later on, as you want to come up with what we call as you want to come up with what you call a sort of ID and all that. Okay, asset naming now one or two things about as naming convention or coming out with the idea. Uh, why do we need asset hierarchy lah? So that we can come up with a naming convention and once we have the hierarchy, then sekarang kita boleh okay how to come up with the idea. So we are very consistent means you do it every time uh, one thing you can one example you can take is actually your IC. So IC, you see, we have a naming convention. The first two, 5 2, okay, is the year of birth. The second, 05 or 06, is your month, and then your day, and then the middle one is where you come from, which state, and that the last four digit is your serial number. So our ID, other what you call a naming convention so asset same so we must be consistent and because we are consistent kalau you under baru equipment you have a new equipment you know how to actually name the thing you know what is the next name to give you don't have to like how do I name it no but it will be quite straightforward it will be quite straightforward because sekarang you already have a system to name thing yeah so because of that right now we can actually populate our hierarchy so uh just again this is another example this one is actually from this one is actually from what you call factory lah, it's a pharmaceutical factory lah. Let's say for example you have a of course in this example this one was done by the client yeah. So this is how they do it so they have different location because in the plant in the factory itself they actually have different building they have different building so this one they said this location they start with the location and they call it value stream level so it's a particular sort of product line and this in product line they have a packaging they have packaging they have fueling and all that so is it the second level then they have position position is where is the equipment because in a certain section you actually have quite each section is quite big so they have different section each section is because of the different equipment so basically this is where the because it's the packaging line it's not like what they call discrete equipment it's a continuous line this one is different it's a cantoning is a with conveyor and so on and so forth so the laborer again you have the feeder you have a conveyor belt then you have the laborer itself yeah yeah and then we go on the position where is it and then the equipment so see the fourth one is actually the equipment level in this case in this example I'm not saying that you use the same example and then they go on downward into the bill of material which is actually the spare part but we are not managing spare part right now so we are actually talking about equipment level so you can see that the class criticality and all that that level if you are able to see this this is actually the level where the equipment is so the whole idea so if I can bring up again why what is the asset hierarchy asset hierarchy is actually to develop a sort of grouping of the equipment in a logical sequence so that you can actually manage or track equipment more easily. You try to group them, and it will actually help you to actually come up with the naming convention, because at the end of the day you want to do equipment tagging. So sometimes you call it equipment tag, means you give it a equipment ID and you tag it onto the equipment. So later on when you have a works order, and if the works order said, look, this works order is for AC001, you know actually where it's AC001, because it's tagged onto the equipment. So there's no missing. And the whole idea of coming up with a good naming convention is also we can fit it into a database. Now your database can be Excel, it can be actually sort of CMMS. Yeah. So in order to do that, it will be good to have a good or logical sort of naming convention. So that later on when you go into a CMMS where they make reports, where they make scheduling, they come up with works order, it will be helpful, and it will be easier for them to fetch out things. But today we don't want to go into the CMMS thing. We will schedule the CMMS another time. So basically CMMS is a computerized maintenance system. It will be good if the you see, to implement a CMMS, the upfront, I call the work that you need to do is actually you need to come up with a good equipment hierarchy, come up with a good naming convention, then only we fit into the computer. Right? Because the computer only take data from what you have. But just to give you an idea what CMMS is, it will consist of scheduling, equipment history, works order, spare part, and so on and so forth. Now, just before I end, I just want to show you. Now, suppose you have a spreadsheet of your asset with the ID, with the different informations, descriptions, department, as what is on the screen. So suppose with the Excel, we can actually order the thing or index the columns according to a different criteria. Suppose if you want to index it according to class. Now the class is basically the equipment type. It can be equipment or class of different equipment. It could be a sections and all that. So you know that you can actually text them or actually arrange them according to alphabetical order. So in the same way, you can do that for department. Yeah, and then you can actually have it in the proper sequence. So in the same way, your asset ID is the same. Yeah, you can actually index it accordingly, and because of that, it's quite important for us to have a proper asset ID so that the ID will be intelligent enough to tell us what the item is about. Just like I've shown you on, like for example, if you start with AH, okay, AH is stand for issue unit, or AC is ACON, what systems, what category of equipment, and the serial number. Of course, in this instance here, it's all in numeric. You can actually do it in numeric, so that 90 means something, 012 means something else. So you can actually use a naming convention for your own purpose. So everybody is different because our plant are different. So with that, I will close this time.